Hello, this is Malorian, this is Orc Tactical Team, and what we're going to be dealing with today is another viewer question. Now, what his question was is, hey Malorian, I'm playing Orcs and Goblins, how do I deal with enemy war machines? And really, this is something I've touched on before, but you know, just because I talked about this a year ago doesn't mean that I shouldn't come back to talk about it now, because not only can that be good for the new people, but I've also come up with more things since I've done that last video. So there you go. What you're trying to do is take out enemy war machines. Why? One, they're very deadly. They're hurting you. You need these things dead. Number two, they're expensive. You go kill a simple dwarf grudge thrower, that's like 150 points. That's huge. So if you can go and destroy those things, it's fantastic news. The question is, how do you do it? Well, the number one thing you're going to need is speed. And once you say that, it's going to be fairly obvious to say, well, what we need then is wolf riders, spider riders, boar boys. That's your fast stuff. You know, all the rest is just a bunch of infantry running up. Those are going to be your fast things that can get those things done, unless they're dedicating a wyvern rider to go kill war machines. So it's pretty simple, right? They're going to be going up, try and go around the flanks, charge in, destroy them. The way that you want these guys set up is you want them to be offensive enough that they can destroy the war machines you're trying to face. If you're up against elf ones, you need very little equipment as opposed to if you're going up against dwarf war machines. Very different things. The other thing you got to worry about is psychology, right? So if you can go with something that has, you know, the savage orc boar boys, then all of a sudden you don't need to be worrying about leadership tests for a panic. Although I guess then you have to worry about being baited. So leadership is a big issue when you're trying to design this team to go around and take out your opponent's war machines. In the end, sometimes all you can do is just take a character, right? Take an orc big boss, put him on a boar all by himself. He's still fairly cheap when you think about it for a throwaway unit, and then he's not going to suffer any of the panic tests. His leadership is really high, and so he can just run on his own and try and get those war machines, and he can easily get the job done most of the time there. Now, but let's look at the best case scenario for some of this speed stuff. You got wolf riders. They're movement 9. It's fantastic. They can vanguard. They're very fast. So, let's assume that they vanguard, they move up their 1 foot. You get first turn. They now march 18 inches, zip around, and get to try and aim at the enemy war machines. Well, even if this works out, I mean, the rest of your army is moving up, and on your opponent's turn, he's either going to be trying to block them, he might be charging into your main lines there, you're having combat already, and then over here he could be blocking all these guys of yours. So when it gets to your turn 2, well, these guys might be able to charge in, but chances are, if you didn't already have combat already, now your lions are charging in, you might have to be trying to get around his blockers, so you're wasting another turn. So really, even though this is your fastest unit, and it's the best it could possibly do, it might not be enough. By the time he gets there, you're already locked in combat. So for that point 1 with war machines doing damage, it doesn't matter because you're already stuck in combat and they can't shoot you. Now, of course, there's going to be times where this doesn't really count. Let's say you're up against Skaven, you're fighting slaves, you still got to kill those war machines or else they're going to shoot in combat and really hurt you. Or maybe it's for point 2 where you're still trying to score those points. The big thing I always say last time is that spend those points, get it into combat, win the combat, and even if you just have 5 guys that walk out of a horde, that's all you need to destroy a war machine. I mean, assuming it's not a dwarf organ gun and it's just going to shoot you off the table, those 5 guys just charge in there and get those points as well. So really, when you look at it that way, it wasn't really worth it. Something else that you can look at is, let's say either you're playing a more defensive orc army or you're going up against a defensive opponent. So the whole idea of combat being on turn 1 or 2 isn't really there. It's going to be happening on turn 3 or 4. Well, one of the problems in that case, especially if your opponent's defensive, is that your fast cast is going to have no way to break through your opponent's castle to get to the juicy center and kill those war machines. But something you can do on your own part is switch from going to fast units to ranged units. In particular, you want to have the stone lava, because what that's going to do is let you shoot those things from turn 1, pretty much wound those things on a 2+, D6 wounds, and in most of the cases on a 3+, boom, that war machine is gone. That really expensive grudge thrower, boom, that first turn is gone. So that can be a really good way of taking these things out right away. Of course, you don't want to go overboard because every single war machine you get is going to be taking you out of something else you can have in your main combat. So that's kind of the main thing you want to do to take them out. But something else I kind of thought of is we already kind of said like, oh, that fast cav, it's all going to waste. Well, failing a war machine assassination isn't always a bad thing. And let me explain that. So you had your wolves. They moved up. The opponent then had a unit that just turned to try and block them or got in their way. Well, let's look at a typical battle. We have 3 hordes against 3 hordes. Well, whereas before you had to kind of just one-on-one it and off you go, well, all of a sudden now they have one that's out of position to try and protect their own war machines, and it's now 2 hordes against your own 3, which is obviously a much better thing to have. So you can go concentrate on those 2 hordes and then work on that last one after. So even though your war machine assassination failed, it's actually making it easier for you to win the game overall. Another thing too, let's say it failed because they shot at your guys. Either it's with, some archers or a war machine or whatever it is, it failed and they ran away. Well, another way to look at this is that we already said that the big way you're going to be winning the game is through combat. So they're sending those war machines or ranged units, whatever it is, at those wolf riders and not at your main horde. That's great because it actually is going to help you win that main combat. Another thing that'd be even better is if they use magic, because shooting a couple of archers at wolf riders isn't all that effective. Hitting them with a fireball is very effective. But that's actually a good thing, because let's say they threw 2 dice, hit them with a fireball, knocked them out. What you could look at this now though is that, alright, this is happening just before combat, and those 2 power dice that they used to fireball you did not go into a hex or an augment, something that would have drastically changed the combat, right? If you look at it, either 2 dice to fireball your wolf riders or 2 dice to put on flesh to stone, I want to fireball the wolf riders. That's way better for me. So all these ways, you might want to actually still include these wolf riders in your lists to try and make it better for you overall. So there you have it. It's really good to take out war machines because they're very deadly. Some of them, there are a lot of points. If you can take them out, it's a whole bunch of points for you. But when you do it, you want to do it with your fast units. However, even though you're really fast, it might fail, and that might not be a bad thing, right? Focus on combat. If you want to hit them first turn, go with something like a stone thrower. They can just hit them first turn and there's nothing they can do to block it, opposed from like killing your war machine first. And then really, even if you go with it and it fails, it's going to be helping you probably in the long run if it all is lined up correctly. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye.